fun at all. But
we're going to give you a test. We're just going to not let you know what's going to be on it.
But that's where we're at. Oregon,
Or
Ohio
how we're
State.
grading it.
Yeah, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Penn State stay the top four, but that's kind of irrelevant because of what kind of then comes with your conference champions, which I get they're projecting Texas. Yesterday, I think Georgia, if it is Texas that beats Texas A&M this week, I've got Georgia beating Texas in the SEC championship game again. Are you willing to join me on that stage?
I don't have a prediction on that, but I do want Georgia to win because I don't want Texas to just, waltz into the SEC and win the championship in the first year. I don't like that.
It would take some, it would take some away, I feel like, if Texas just showed up.
I don't like that.
But yeah, that would switch out Georgia and Texas. I don't think Texas would probably go to about 6 or 7. I don't know if they would stay ahead of Ohio State, who's at 5 there. Ohio State's 2 in the college football playoff, but since they are right now not projected to win the Big Ten championship, Oregon would get the bye. Ohio State would play in the first round. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But what matters and what I think is most important, number 15 against number 12. We've got a big showcase game of the weekend, and that's a lot of fun for us. And we'll talk about motivation for rivalries. But that's a lot of fun to have that particular number, those numbers next to the Gamecocks and next to the Tigers.
Yes. However.
Early hot take.
However, it's been a long time since we've had this type of outside juice on this game. Everybody's paying attention. But sometimes I like rivalries when both teams stink. I kind of like sometimes when both teams are absolutely mediocre and there's nothing going for either team except for the idea that we ain't them. So this is fun. We haven't had this in a while. But I'm just wondering, what is more fun? A very highly ranked game where both teams have high stakes? Or one of those bowl-eligible games where both teams are at 5 wins? Maybe the spoiler game?
We've had many of those, though.
I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what people like. I understand this is a special occasion and this is good. I'm just saying, what do we really value in these rivalry games?
Well, we don't get this.
We don't get this very often. That is correct.
We got a little spoiled when we got about 3 straight years of it.
Let me be very honest, because I'm going to drag Clemson for the rest of this week. We don't get this very often because of us.
That is true.
We don't often bring they invite us to the party. We bring nothing a lot of times.
I was looking to see. I've seen some of the breakdowns on the games that were ranked. Games. I believe what has stood out is somebody put out, I think there's 7 of them in particular. Maybe this Century and South Carolina is, I believe, 5-2 in those games when both teams have showed up to the party ranked and ready to go. Obviously, the last time I believe was the 2017 game where South Carolina snuck into the rankings at 24, and Clemson, I think, was 2, and Jake Bentley threw a pick 6, I believe, on the first or second play, and pretty much ended the night. Is that memory coming back to you?
Oh my gosh!
And I blocked that one. Had you?
Yes.
Like
it was the most. I don't know, Bill. You might have triggered something more anticlimactic. The Jake Bentley. We don't need to do this in the middle of the week, Bill. What are you doing? The Jake Bentley pick 6. That was like a 6-yard pick 6. He just caught it and waltzed into the end zone.
He could have just thrown the ball into the end zone and let Clemson jumped on it. It would have been the same. He could have literally just turned around and pitched it into the end zone and be like, there you go. Have at it.
Or from last year.
Well,
the early Spencer Rattler, what was that? The backwards pass?
The backwards pass. Look, Spencer Rattler, remember, threw a pick 6 on the opening series of the win in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
South Carolina has a slight history of doing something very quickly in this game that just deflates everybody. That's, if you want to start breaking the game down, look, there's your number 1 key. Please do not do something on the first series. I am perfectly happy with 2 punts. South Carolina gets and goes 3 and out, punts, Clemson gets and goes. I'd be like, wow.
We got ourselves a ball
We got
game
okay.
here.
All right. We're not heading for something crazy. You can all sit in your seat for the first 10 minutes of the game and be like, "Oh, this is nice. Weather's nice, stadium's nice. All right, everything's nice. Colors are nice." Okay.
Man, that Jake Bentley pick six. I mean, it was like I'm not looking at the score. It was like 7 yards.
Yeah, no, it was.
And he just walked into end zone. It was like, oh.
Yeah, even the Clemson defensive back wasn't quite sure. He was like, "Should I go 93 yards? Am I supposed to go the other way? Wait." Yeah, it was a rough start to the game, but nonetheless, we will have number 15 and number 12. A lot of excitement there to get ready for that game coming up. Line, at least as of last night, has stayed right at 2.5. Has not moved at all. We'll see if that continues to hold as we go through Thanksgiving and reconvene on Friday morning. So we'll get into that. Also tonight, right here at 107.5 The Game, you can hear men's basketball. We'll have a 5:30 pregame for you. That'll be followed by a 6 o'clock tip-off from Fort Myers. Gamecocks and Virginia Tech. It was the Virginia Tech game last year that really, I think, set South Carolina on its course. And Preston, I'm not going to do the old, this is the biggest game of Lamont Paris's career.
Because we don't do that. We don't exaggerate.
Not the day before Thanksgiving. We got too much going on. But I will say this is the game. To me, this is the game that sets the course for the year. You win this, you come out of this tournament 1-1, which was kind of a best-case scenario. You look around, you go, boy, 3 losses, but 2 of them to what will end up being top 20 teams at the end of the week. I believe Indiana will hold on and stay in the top 20. I believe that's where they're at basketball rankings right now this time of year, are one of the more irrelevant things that are out there. But Indiana currently 14 according to the AP top 25. Xavier's 22. But that's my figuring. Okay, you went 1-1 in Fort Myers. You're 4-3. You get set for Boston College. You get set for Clemson. You get set for East Carolina. A chance to maybe try and get to 10-3, somewhere in that mark in non-conference play, which would then set up conference play, which is going to be quite difficult. Given that right now you just look at it, there's 4 SEC teams just in the top 10 alone. Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama in the top 10 alone. Then you go down the list a little bit. Florida's at 18, Arkansas's at 19, Texas A&M is at 20, Mississippi's at 23, and Mississippi State has now snuck in the rankings at 25. 9 SEC teams making appearances in the top 25. So tonight's, to me, a pretty big game.
What are you looking for? Obviously, you want to win first, but are there any actual basketball things that you're looking for from the team that's salvageable? Let's say they don't come out victorious. Are there things that can help you feel like they're in the right direction?
They're talented. It's just going to be if you watch. I know that sounds kind of stupid to say it in that manner, but it's one of those things where if you just watch and they look fun, they look like they're having fun. Because right now it just looks like everything is so strained, and they don't look like they're having fun. They don't look like they're particularly good friends with one another. And I don't know. I'm just telling you what it looks like watching on television. I'm not telling you what the case is in the locker room. But it looks like Lamont Paris is a little agitated that he's kind of not getting the effort he wants. It doesn't look cohesive. And I guess that's the first thing. The number one goal, as you just mentioned, is to win the game. Get this thing to stay above 500, pick up a nice quality win, but most importantly, win. But yeah, to answer your question of what I'm kind of keeping an eye on, does it look cohesive? Does it look like it makes sense? And I don't blame this on Lamont Paris. I think this is what happens in the transfer era. You would indeed see some of this at times with Frank Martin's teams trying to figure out who they were and who their teammates were. Also, we'll see kind of how that looks tonight. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. South Carolina goes into this game, according to a couple different sites. MGM has them at -4.5. Caesars has them at -5. So the Gamecocks about a 4.5 to 5 point favorite tonight against Virginia Tech down in Fort Myers. And again, we'll have the pregame for you, 5:30 game right here, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach, be at 6 o'clock. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But coming up, motivation. Did you need motivation for this game, besides it just being a football game?
Oh, need motivation? No, but there were motivations. There were different motivations, but I don't think you needed to be given to you. For sure.
All right, we'll get into that a little bit. We'll let you hear from Shane Beamer as well. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. Oh, and there will be dessert talk today. Prepare accordingly. Have you done your homework? Are you ready for dessert talk?
We have two conversations that need to happen today. So
Cool.
one was based on yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. Prepare accordingly. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Let me tell you right now, as we wrap up 2024, you might be thinking about what you're going to do in 2025. You might be thinking about refinancing. You might be thinking about moving, upgrading, downsizing, whatever you might be doing. The first thing you need to do is call the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, and see what interest rates are available, what plans are available, what you can get qualified for. Let me give you an example. If you're thinking of moving in Richland County, moving to Richland County, if you're in Richland County and you're thinking about moving around in Richland County, you need to check into the Community Reinvestment product. It's for Richland County, Blythewood, Northeast, Southeast, and the I-20 corridor, where right now you can get a 4.99% interest with a 5.075 APR on a 30-year fixed mortgage. So a payment of $200,000 at this APR would be just $1,072 for 360 months. These are estimates. They do not include taxes and insurance premiums. Call the Mortgage Guru today, 803-719-1005.
And traffic-wise, things moving pretty well early this morning. No accidents at this time. And your forecast, cloudy, 67 for the high today. Some rain and thunder in the early part of tomorrow, your Thanksgiving Day. That should be really clearing out, it looks like, after about 12 or 1, and then just cloudy throughout the rest of the day. 73 will be our high. Then that cold front continues to move in. Friday, we're looking for a high of 57, overnight low of 31. Right now, though, it's overcast and 50 on 107.5 The Game.
$6.20. Hey, get up and get going. Ordered some Chinese food last night. That was kind of like the warm-up to the big. Now today you kind of ease in, right? You're very selective today. If you're going to eat heavy, it's got to be early.
Yeah, not a bad look. Not a bad look. Chinese food always hits the spot, especially around the holidays.
It's different. So you're like, all right, I'm not – there's no rolls. There's nothing that kind of takes away from your excitement. We'll get
good call, actually.
Yeah.
Good call.
It's not a bad direction to take it. So, all right, let's get into a little bit of this. You said there was motivations for you. Did any of them involve another coach for the team or?
No, well, there wasn't necessarily another coach for the other team, but there was motivations of at that time, there was kind of the either or aspect where if you went to South Carolina, either A, you chose South Carolina, or B, in my case, Clemson did not choose you, right? So there was the motivations of like, I want to make myself right by proving them wrong, or I want to prove that I was right the whole time. There's that motivations. There's obviously the bragging rights of folks that you know, the local things that you can motivate, that you could be playing for. And then there were some extraneous things that, whether you're talking about going to a bowl, hitting a certain win mark for the season, so those are the outgoes. But if we're just talking about personal motivations, yeah, my personal motivation was they took Donnell Washington over me, so I would like to win this game to show them. Didn't quite happen as much as I would have liked it to, but that was a personal motivation for me.
That is true. You know, you go back to your redshirt freshman and your freshman and redshirt freshman year, y'all were bowl eligible.
Mm-hmm.
It was about winning the rivalry game. It was about actually beating your opponent. The following 3 years was about trying to become bowl eligible.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggles that were had in that particular game. I still remember the Charlie Whitehurst play where I think it was Corey Jenkins had him dead to rights in the backfield. It was up there, I believe.
I was watching a video yesterday. I didn't realize that Clipboard Jesus was undefeated against us.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
And then it talked about how great a life he lived after that, being a backup quarterback, making buku money, never actually playing in the NFL.
Oh, he got hit like twice his entire career.
He did it right. He did it, dated Jewel. Great job, Charlie. You won. But yeah, there were some different things. But you said getting to a bowl game, all of those things were outside. But I don't know if that back then. I don't know if those were the main things that happened once you start playing the game. There were probably more interpersonal things as far as rivalries are concerned.
Sometimes it doesn't take much. You just need the other coach to speak. Dabo Swinney, full of speakings that then motivate a rivalry. This is what we played on Monday. If you're needing a little pick-me-up.
Got to bring you back.
Let's hear a little bit of Dabo inciting the crowd.
And so he's exactly right. They ain't Alabama, they ain't LSU, and they're certainly not Clemson. And that's why Carolina's in Chapel Hill and USC's in California. And the university in this state always has been, always will be Clemson. And it's right here in Clemson, South Carolina. So you can print that, tweet that.
It's X now, sir. It's not tweet anymore. You can X that.
So that creates motivation there, you would think. Maybe not with the players. We've had that discussion before, but definitely with the fan base. Yesterday, Shane Beamer talked about motivation for the rivalry for his ball club. Number 2. Sorry.
Yeah, this is a game where Dabo's not going to have to go in the meetings throughout the week and in the locker room on Saturday and motivate his guys to play hard, and neither am I. I mean, I'm sure both teams are ready emotionally to play today. If they said, you got to be up there, we'd hop on the bus and head up today and go play. So it's one, making sure you keep what I've talked to our guys about, just, keep your routine throughout the week as well, which is a little bit different this week because of the class situation. But keep your routine and just do what you have to do to prepare to go play your very best on Saturday. And the emotions are, part of it, and it'll be an emotional game throughout, and there'll be electricity in the air, and it's awesome to be a part of. I mean, this is fun and exciting. Last year at this time, we were 5-6. Like, that was, I don't want to say pressure, but that wasn't fun. 5-6, and if you don't win, the season's over. That's a different level of mindset than what we have this week, where this is fun and exciting to be a part of. And to me, this is going to be a yearly occurrence. Like, we're not going anywhere, our program. We're only continuing to ascend. And Dabo and Clemson have shown they're not going anywhere. And I think a battle of ranked Carolina versus ranked Clemson, that's going to, with playoff implications in my mind, is going to be a yearly occurrence around here. So everybody better get used to it. And that's what I've told our guys, is this is fun and this is exciting. But at the same time, once the game starts, it gets down to blocking and tackling and playing with great fundamentals. And that's what's going to win this game.
It's interesting. Steve Spurrier, I think, embraced the rivalry, but not in the same way that Shane Beamer is embracing this rivalry. Like, Shane, I never got the feeling that Spurrier really wanted to promote it nationally. Whereas you hear Shane right there say, look, we're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. This is going to be an annual thing. We're ranked, they're ranked, playoff implications. That's really embracing what we, I think, want this thing to be.
Well, yeah, because to be honest, in Spurrier's mind, his rivalry game was against Florida State.
Right. Or Georgia. Really, it might have been more Georgia than Florida.
He just in his mind, he's like, oh, yeah, we got to play that team up there. He probably didn't respect them very much. He wanted to just pat Dabo on the head whenever he saw him. So it wasn't that type of thing. This is Shane Beamer's rivalry. This is the first rivalry he's been part of as a coach, as a head coach. So this is more important to him than it probably was, honestly, to Steve Spurrier. If you were to give him a little bit of truth serum and ask him how important is this rivalry, he'd probably it's okay.
Yeah.
But this is really important to Shane, and you can hear him talk. You can hear him say that.
He was, while they weren't in state, well, Florida State was, but I was going to say, I think for him, if you were to say, what were your rivalry games, he'd be like, well, there was Tennessee, there was Georgia, there was Florida State.
Right.
And those were.
And they'd be like, Coach, what about Clemson? We did play them.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. But you hear Shane truly embracing that. That's what we hope. That's what we expect. Yeah, next year when they come here, you hope again it's top 15 and that there is more legitimate playoff implications. Text weighs in and says, "Is the committee setting us up to jump Bama and Ole Miss if we beat Clemson? Seems strange the Tigers jumped so high." That's from Ethan. I don't know, Preston. To be honest, the fact that they left Mississippi and Bama in front of South Carolina just suggests to me that South Carolina will not. It would take both of them, one of them losing, Mississippi to Mississippi State, Alabama to Auburn, for South Carolina. If all three win, they're staying back on. They're staying back behind those two.
To the Texas point, like I said earlier, we don't know the criteria that they're using to judge. They're keeping this a secret. So yes, that could be, because now we can say, instead of beating the 14th team, we beat the 12th team, and that sounds a lot better. Maybe that's the thing that we're doing. But also, to your point, they have the two teams that we've lost to directly ahead of us, and if they continue to win, it's hard to see how you jump them. But who knows? Because we don't know what they're doing. We have no idea.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in this morning. Clemson Allen He's getting fired up. Little confused on what decades and centuries are. He says, y'all are going back decades on these motivation rants. I think he's talking about the one from Dabo that was just over one singular decade ago.
And are we supposed to be ashamed of that? What are you doing?
Yeah.
These guys have gotten too cordial over the past couple of decades. I mean, all you hear is Shane and Dabo. I have a lot of respect for the program. Those are great guys. We don't want to hear that. And so if we have to go dig up archival footage,
Create stuff.
we will do that.
Yeah.
What
is
do
it?
you think,
AI?
Clemson?
AI, be careful, Shane. We could have you.
Come on, man. Get out of here. Yes, we are digging, and we will continue to dig.
We'll get more into these college football playoff rankings.
We don't want to hear nothing about your respect for the other guys in the program.
No respect this week, especially now. None. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in this morning. It's the early game. Thanksgiving is just a day away. That's right. And then we turn, what is it, tomorrow? Doesn't say, what is it? Santa comes down. Is it the Macy's Day Parade tomorrow? Is that right? Santa comes down and Santa will be here. It's time to start gearing up. And that means it's time to start gearing up for the holiday season of love. At Love Chevrolet, where you'll find 14 acres of brand new Chevrolets, you'll find the $1,000 low price guarantee, meaning you can shop other dealerships, take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it. And, of course, you will find that new sleigh that you've been looking for. Mom needs a Tahoe to taxi the team around. Drivers need a Corvette for all of the great driving they'll be doing. Who knows what you need, but I can guarantee you this. At Love Chevrolet, you're going to find it. Again, that 14 acres of brand new Chevys and a sales staff that is absolutely second to none, ready to walk you around and find that next car, truck, or SUV that you've been looking for. Go visit Love Chevrolet today, and together, let's drive.
No accidents to report right now. I do have a disabled vehicle. Might be slowing things down a little bit. Lady Street at Hugie. And then forecast, not looking too bad. 67 for the high today, 73 tomorrow with a little bit of morning rain, maybe a thunderstorm in there, but should be clearing out really by early afternoon, so not too bad there. And that cold front starts to move in by Friday. We're looking for a high of 57 with an overnight low of 31. Currently holding steady at 50 on 107.5 The Game.
.36 as we roll along, reminding you today from 12 to 3, the halftime show will be broadcasting live from the Nest, 1331 Gadsden Street in the Vista. Stop by and register. You can get Carolina Clemson football tickets, Carolina Clemson men's basketball, and Carolina Clemson baseball tickets. You can win all three. We will draw a winner coming up Friday morning at 7:30. So if you can go by, yesterday they were out at Cato's Power Equipment. Today, the halftime show broadcasting live from the Nest. Again, stop by 1331 Gadsden Street in the Vista. Register there for Carolina Clemson football tickets, Carolina Clemson men's basketball, and Carolina Clemson baseball. All three tickets you can win. 7:30 on Friday morning is when we will have the drawing. So go by and visit the halftime show today. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. So college football playoff rankings last night. And so, Preston, one question I have is what does happen here with teams that go to their conference championships and lose? Remember Lane Kiffin about a week ago, then promptly lost to Florida, but Lane Kiffin about a week ago said, not sure we want to go. Maybe they're irrelevant. Let's listen. This is Ward Manuel. This is number 27, Jen. I apologize. On the losers of the conference championship games and what could happen with them.
Well, Reese, I won't project what the committee will do, but what I'll say is that we have high regard, as I've said in the past, for the teams that make the championship. That's a big deal to make the conference championship. And so we're going to watch those games and make sure as we watch them that we look at everything that's going on in those games, everything that they've done throughout the season as we look at where to rank them in the final week.
That's interesting because I'm of the opinion, and let's just use SMU, for example, in Miami. Both are sitting there with one loss. If they run the table, if Miami wins this week against Syracuse and if SMU wins and they go to the conference championship game, I don't think you can punish the loser and move them out if they both have one loss. Now, let me use a hypothetical, and unfortunately it involves Clemson, and then people go, well, you're just a Clemson hater. Fine, whatever. Is that now people are looking at and figuring out who wrote this. But then on that napkin, I narrowed it down to that 12 spot, that number 12. Now, I eliminated Alabama yesterday. But that 12 spot came down to South Carolina. If South Carolina wins, let's again the projection here. South Carolina wins. South Carolina, Mississippi.
Win every game you can, because if there's a chance to snub somebody as far as name brand, you're out of here. South Carolina, you don't have the name brand working for you. So a lot of the teams that are on the bubble, if you're not one of these quote unquote blue blood teams, I think you probably need to be aware.
South Carolina still does have a chance. Yesterday, Shane Beamer was asked about them having a chance and does the college football playoff come up when talking to his team. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
No. Not that our players aren't talking about it. I don't think I need to say anything. They know. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be in study hall tonight, Pete. They're going to be sitting around on their phones, and I'm sure they'll see the rankings come out, whatever it is, and people will be talking about it and things like that as well. So we addressed it maybe a few weeks ago. Just the thing that we needed to do is worry about what we can control, and that's winning football games. And this is no different. We don't talk about it. Not that that's the right thing. We talk about, again, none of it matters if you don't go out there and play well on Saturday. So we need to focus on playing well Saturday, and everything else takes care of itself.
Poor Shane for thinking that study hall is going to stop a 19-year-old away from getting away from something they want to see on their phone. I swear Shane envisions study hall, and kids are just, I'm looking at my book today, sir. We're reading chapter 10.
Nice mahogany, heavy wood tables, books all around, quiet, just getting up, going to get another dictionary or book.
Perchance, tutor, would you please assign me an assignment? I understand what he's saying, though. Maybe it's one of those things that we don't need to talk about the thing that's understood. We get it. It's already here, so we're not going to deny it, but we don't need to harp on it because, as he stated, if you don't win, it does not matter. So none of that so all that conversation is moot.
Yeah, that's the important part. Again, there's so many things for South Carolina there, like win, get Shane Beamer to 2-2 in this rivalry, get 2 straight against Clemson at Memorial Stadium. All these little things, but yes, on the outside. Now, I have after last night, I will say. Yesterday, if you'd have asked me, I probably had South Carolina's playoff chances in the double digits, say above 10%. Now seeing Alabama and Mississippi both ahead of South Carolina, I'd go back to single digits.
Well, Bill, I read something yesterday where I saw the singlest of digit.
Was it round?
It was 1. It was straight. It was straight. It was just a 1% chance. And I was like, okay, I guess there's a chance.
So there's a chance, yes.
So
Somewhere
chance?
Jim Carrey is. So you're telling me there's a chance. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll continue on with that. Talk more about it here as we roll along. But up next, it is time to number one. We've got to get into a discussion that was raised yesterday regarding our Thanksgiving meals, and it's time to discuss the desserts. We'll do that all coming up here and carry that through the morning. 803-404-6100. You're listening to the early game. I'll start you with this. Would fruitcake be considered a dessert? If so, that is the best dessert at Christmas. At
It's a
Thanksgiving. Sorry, at
doorstop.
Thanksgiving. I'm looking at Christmas, page 2. Huh?
It's considered a doorstop.
Okay, Jen goes with no. Not only does Jen say, well, do you consider it a dessert? Let's just start with that before we get into how much you dislike fruitcake.
I guess it would be a dessert. I mean,
Here's what I'm gonna say.
it's sweet.
I've never had a good fruitcake.
I'm sure they're out there,
so
and I
that-
would love to
and so
try
that's
a
what I'm
really
saying.
good
Like,
one.
I've never had somebody like an expert fruitcake maker, and I could try that one. But for the ones that I've experienced in
No.
my life,
Gigantic no.
rough. And I've tried it multiple times, and which I don't know why.
So
but-
let me ask you, and I don't know if it's considered, I feel like it's more of a Easter dish, but ambrosia, dessert, or
Ambrosia, Fred,
Wendell.
Wendell.
What was the other one?
Clarence.
Yeah,
Ambrosia,
Clarence.
Fred, William, fruitcake. What do these things all have in common? I would say it's a dessert, I guess.
You-
But yeah, that's more Easter though.
I feel like it's more Easter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think some people try to pass it off as, oh, well, there's fruit, but there's also a bunch of sugar around it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of dessert-ish.
All right.
Yet I can see it as a side now that I think about it.
Very different from a trifle, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of a trifle. So let's not get too carried away on the fruits.
Lead us down our path. Where are
All
we
right.
going with this?
I hadn't considered this yesterday, but it came up when your conversation of gravy and things that you accessorize the gravy with, and we got to the conversation of breads. There's usually a bread on your Thanksgiving plate, and we're gonna go with the tried and true start bench cut here.
Okay.
Start bench cut: cornbread, rolls, biscuit. Start bench cut for your Thanksgiving plate for this specific time. For this plate, for this team, for Thanksgiving plates, start bench cut, cornbread, rolls, biscuit.
Okay.
That is our first conversation. We got time. Stay with us. We're gonna get to the desserts, but first we got to get this bread situation handed out. Start bench cut, cornbread, rolls, biscuit.
Okay.
How you lining that up?
I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit. I'm gonna bend the rules just a tad here because Lauren, we did a soup the other week and she made a jalapeno cornbread. Phenomenal. So I'm on the cornbread. I'm not sure if you were just say no, you can't use jalapeno, or
no,
some people
you can go for
actually
it.
have the kernels of corn that sweeten it a little bit.
You
It's
can
more
go
of a
for
sweeter.
whatever your version is.
So because of that, I'm going to go with rolls, start, bench the cornbread, and I'm cutting. Again, we're doing specifically Thanksgiving, so I'm cutting the biscuits.
Okay.
This is no rolls, a good dinner roll. If you want to go Hawaiian roll, that's fine. Probably that would maybe change things a little bit for me. But rolls, bench the cornbread, and then
Cutting biscuits.
Cutting the biscuits. Yeah, no.
You sure?
Yeah, I don't. I'm also doing this, and I guess y'all are doing it the same way. Like we, from Old Timey Meat Market, buy their Southern style biscuits that are really good, but we only use them for breakfast. We made sausage biscuits last week. So to me, a biscuit
I hear you.
is a breakfast item. This is not a breakfast meal.
I hear you, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm actually follow down your same path. We're gonna go Hawaiian rolls. Start. We're gonna go we're gonna bench cornbread, though it can come through in a pinch, and I love cornbread, all styles, sweet, savory, whatever. I'm here for it. And for this specific game, Biscuit, you just don't fit into the game plan today. You might not get a lot of touches this game. That's all it is. You're great, but this specific game, we can't use you.
Real quick before we go to
Don't
Jen on
disagree.
this one, before we go? Where do you? The word roll is in there, but crescent roll, does that count as a roll?
I think
Probably-
I
technically.
think we're gonna have to go. We'll have to give it.
We will allow two people.
We'll allow it.
Two people texting in.
Good
to
job.
ask. Jen, where are you going with this?
I'm exactly the same as you guys. Roll, bench the cornbread, and just, we don't really need the biscuit at this point. I agree it's more of a breakfast thing. But I will say with a roll, you got to have butter. It's dry. I don't want it dry. I probably need more butter than is recommended by a cardiologist when it comes to a biscuit, because I'm just not a big bread person all the time. So if I'm going to have the roll, I got to slather it.
Now, are you because I've seen both of these, and I would never have this discussion until we just got into it. But are you a cut the roll, put the butter in the middle, or are you putting it on top of the roll?
Oh no, in the middle. That way you can use more.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends on what stage of the evening this is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Late evening, I might just go on top.
Okay.
I might just this is, whatever.
But it's harder to keep it on there. It just kind of rolls off.
It's as long as it can get from the table to my mouth, preferably in one gulp.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing especially about Thanksgiving with the roll, is it used? Now I'm right-handed, so fork and right hand. But is it used to kind of like push items onto the fork? So like if you want a little bit of the cranberry sauce on the turkey,
Nah, it's not really.
You take it. Again, the gravy, like I said yesterday, gravy.
I don't think that's an Emily Post official, what's the right word? Not couth, but proper dining etiquette. We can get it. Well, we can get into that whole thing later and setting the table properly. That is another thing that, God bless my mother-in-law, and I'm glad she doesn't listen, because if she doesn't start learning how to set the table, okay, I gotta go.
Clip that. Send it to the house.
Start bench cut. Cornbread, rolls, biscuit. What we got?
We got it. We got them. Jacob from Lexington. Start sweet cornbread, bench the rolls, cut the breakfast bread. Another texter says go with broccoli cornbread and bench the biscuit.
Okay.
Another texter says if there is ham, there better be a roll. Another texter goes with rolls, yeast rolls to start, cut the biscuit. That's from Kiri. Thank you for that. We got plenty of them. We'll continue. Send them in. You just heard me mention Old Timey Meat Market and those great Southern-style biscuits. Now, again, that's a biscuit. This past week, I bought sausage from Old Timey Meat Market. We bought the Southern-style biscuits, and last Saturday and Sunday, before the South Carolina football game, and then on Sunday morning, we had sausage biscuits for breakfast. They were delicious. See, there's not just steaks and chicken and all those great dinner items at Old Timey Meat Market. You can actually find some of the sides you might want from Old Timey Meat Market today that can be used tomorrow for your Thanksgiving. You might find dinner rolls. You might enjoy the biscuits and go with those. Whatever it is, you're going to find it at Old Timey Meat Market in one of their 3 locations. So stop by South Congaree, St. Andrews Road, or definitely the Lexington store, where you will definitely find me. Trust me, I'll probably be there again today. Maybe tonight you want to go with a nice bacon wrap filet. Well, guess what? Old Timey Meat Market has them. Again, 3 locations to choose from: South Congaree, St. Andrews Road, Irmo, or the Lexington store. Stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. Check out the great selection of food and tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Highway 602 at Old Orangeburg Road. We do have a report of an accident there. Also, disabled vehicle, lady at Hugie, just might be impacting traffic just a little bit. 67 will be our high today under some cloudy conditions. Some rain coming in the morning, maybe a thunderstorm tomorrow. Should be clearing out really after, right now it's looking like after about noon or 1 o'clock. High of 73. That's going to be the warmest day before the cooling trend starts. 57 on Friday. It's 50 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Seven a.m. as we get you up and get you going here. Probably an off day, I imagine, for a lot of people. School is, at least I know in Richland 2 and Richland 5, they were out all week. And then in Lexington, I know my kids are out today. So
Or on day, because a lot of prep stuff has to happen today. So people are probably running around, tidying up, getting stuff ready. So, but a nice day. So Thanksgiving Eve. How come Thanksgiving doesn't have it? As I stated before, for those folks that are coming home from college, big day.
It's a big 2 days because now granted, I lived in Lexington and went to South Carolina. So it's not going home was, in college, I lived in West Columbia. I lived off of Charleston Highway. We had a house with several roommates. And so I was in between. But I do remember when people would come home, you'd have the big Wednesday night. A lot of people would come stay at our house. We'd have people stretched on couches and on floors just because we'd all go down to 5 Points, hit up the old Sharkies, the old Jungle Gyms, the knock club back then. But there was upstairs. I think you remember that. I'm trying to remember what else. I think Lucky's was maybe there. I can't remember what is now Lucky's. But we'd hit up all those places. Then there'd normally be, again, going down toward 26. There was a Waffle House kind of going out that way that we would end up at 2 a.m. in the morning. Might have pulled some old school shenanigans one time with a guy streaking out of the bathroom. So, but everybody would end up, you're right, Wednesday night, but then Thursday, everybody get up, stumble back to their home, but then everybody would reconvene after the big on Thursday night as well.
Yes, you got to reconvene. Wednesday's the big night, then everybody goes home to their family, says hello to grandma, nana, and
spends time,
cleans up, puts a polo on for Thanksgiving, and then it's back.
Yeah,
back to the streets.
That was
the good old days.
And the thing is when you and I were in college, I think there was 1 year that y'all played after Thanksgiving, but I believe every game was before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was pre.
It was everything was before Thanksgiving, so we would have to go deal with our family after the loss or after the victory, and now you get to have a meal and talk trash
over the meal. Yeah, that's nice. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that is nice.
Yep. So that was the way kind of things always worked out there. We've talked about that, talked about the college football playoff rankings. They came out yesterday, and South Carolina finds itself at 15th. Clemson finds itself at 12th. But because of these rankings are a little odd, Preston, I get what they're doing, and I've got it. It's just funny when you look and you say, well, Boise State is technically not in the top 4, but they get a first-round bye because they are ahead of another conference champion. For example, Arizona State is not in the top 12. Arizona State is 16th. They're behind South Carolina. However, because they would be the Big 12 champion, they're the projected Big 12 champion at the time, they would get into the college football playoff. But because Boise State is ahead of them in the rankings, Boise State gets the bye. You following me on that?
Yes, it's a long, windy road. And what I guess I'm saying is, are they saying that Boise State is better than Arizona State, or is that not even a question that we should be asking here?
Yes, they're saying Boise State is ranked ahead. So
they're saying they're ranked ahead, but are they saying they're better?
I would assume by the rankings.
Okay, I just don't know what again. Could somebody give me some criteria so I could figure things out?
It is specifically said, but now that you watch it, you may as well just say the 5 conference champions. And by that, I mean your 4 conference champions, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, ACC. But then you may as well just take the group of 5, or excuse me, the non-power 4s, and call them one conference. Just the mini-me's. I don't know, the group of mini-me's, whatever you want to call them. And because it's basically whoever wins that. Whoever's the highest-ranked team out of that. Coastal Carolina, if they were to be a 12-0 in the Sun Belt, and they were up there, only one of them would get in, either Boise or Coastal, but one of them would get in. They would get that at-large bid, they would get that built-in bid. And if they were ranked ahead of another conference champion, in this case the Big 12, they would get a first-round bye.
But don't we, with our SEC bias, don't we kind of see the Big 12 as like them too, kind of?
There is, yeah. The Big 12 has been fun. The Big 12 is going to take over Big 12 after or Pac-12 after dark or whatever.
Right.
If you watch Arizona State storming the field, BYU's doing their stuff. Yeah, that is a fun conference. But yeah, I think we all look at them like it's kind of like my Final Four thing. Like when we get to the Final Four teams of the playoff, please do not be in our tournament. We appreciate you, Big 12. We appreciate the silliness you bring to the game, to the wackiness, and we appreciate you and your Mike Gundys of the world. We just, when it's time to decide a true champion, we need you to run along and
go to the kids' table.
Yeah.
Get your chicken tenders and mac and cheese and go to the kids' table.
Get out of here. But South Carolina 15th last night, Clemson 12th. So what we know is that South Carolina can knock out Clemson essentially out of any at-large bid here. At-large bid. Clemson will be watching. Clemson will have, I guess, one eye. I don't know how you do this as a player, Preston, where you play the game that you're playing that means so much. It's not like they're playing Citadel again, but you're going to be keeping an eye on Miami and Syracuse on Sunday in that contest to know what your fate is for the ACC championship. And that's, by the way, at 3:30. So I guess you're not distracted during your game, but you are maybe mentally kind of have your mind up at Syracuse.
Well, you will be definitely looking in. You obviously taking care of the task at hand. I don't know if there'll be any crossover, but if there is, maybe our PA announcer could announce any type of movement that.
Yeah, they're not doing that up there. Yeah, but
up there, yeah, that's right. We're not doing that. So yeah, it's not a
because if Miami loses, this is the thing for Clemson. If Miami loses, Clemson and SMU play next week for the ACC championship. And if Clemson were to still lose to South Carolina but beat SMU, guess where they're at? And then you got this huge debate. Do you punish SMU for playing in a conference championship game? Do you kick them out?
I think that's where you look at strength of schedule. Even though they're both in the ACC, you look at strength of schedule. You look at, we talked about this just really quickly off air. You look at their quality wins versus the quality of their losses, and you see, because I'm looking at this, and I don't care what anybody says. I hear you, but Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, and that should count for 3 losses. That shouldn't just be 1 loss, right?
And honestly, why did Clemson jump so much? They beat somebody they absolutely should have.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 2 losses to 3 losses for Bama and Mississippi.
I suppose.
I mean, that's.
But what I'm proposing a weighted system. You lose to Northern Illinois at any point in the season. I don't care when it happens. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Maybe you losses 0.5, like overtime. 1.5 losses.
So
something.
I'll come back to South Carolina, but here's where I'll just I agree with what you're saying, but I'll disagree for a second.
All right.
Are we choosing the best teams now, or are we choosing to put head-to-head over everything? That Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois, I'm going to circle back to South Carolina in a minute, but that Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois back then in September wasn't a great team. They do appear to be playing better now. The competition hasn't been great. No offense, Army and Navy, but they do appear to be playing better. I bet if they played that game again in November when those two teams are playing, or excuse me, if those two teams were to play this week, Notre Dame wins. Northern Illinois, by the way, back then, when Northern Illinois won that game and a few subsequent games afterwards, people were like, ooh, Northern Illinois might be a college football playoff team. Northern Illinois is awful. Okay? They went downhill. So if those two teams were to play today. So now let's bring it back to South Carolina, Alabama. I think one of the texters weighed in and said that I'm overthinking this. Well, here's the thing that I am going to be interested to see. Do I think South Carolina is better than Alabama today? Yes. I think if they played again today, South Carolina would win. And quite frankly, South Carolina was really the better team in mid-October, but they lost. But are we choosing the best teams? And what I'm going to do is expand it. I'm not going to say 12 because 5 teams are winning their way in through conference championship games. But are we choosing the best 7 teams that are playing right now? Well, if that's the case, and South Carolina wins on Saturday, I don't know how you keep them out. But if we're going on strictly head-to-head and what occurred earlier this season, and all things are equal like wins and losses, well, then you got to kind of go with either a Mississippi or Alabama ahead of South Carolina because they won the head-to-head game. Even though I think today South Carolina is definitely better than Alabama, I'm not sure about Mississippi. I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
Well, the only reason you don't know is because you saw that game a long
That's
time
true.
ago.
That's also stuck in my mind.
But
yeah.
really, if you just watched Ole Miss, I think I could confidently say that South Carolina is better than Ole Miss today. Now, they weren't that day, and I think that loss should haunt them because it was a really bad loss at the time. But I think I can confidently say they're better than them at this moment right now.
Yeah, I mean, because right now South Carolina doesn't have the head-to-head wins over anybody in front of them. And I don't know how we would feel if it was us in Mississippi and we had the head-to-head win over them, but then we had the third loss or something that nature. I do feel like we're learning. I do feel like we're learning.
The only problem is we're going to learn this and then it's going to be different.
They're going to change again
year.
in 2 years.
Yeah. 2 years. 26.
Yeah, which I'm not in favor of. Grizz weighs in, says in reference to the championship game, and this is where I agree with him. In reference to the championship game, you should not be able to play your way out of the top 12 if you lose, Preston.
That makes sense.
But again, this is not if you back your way in. And yes, if should Miami lose, Clemson back their way into the ACC championship.
Yeah, I hate being a Clemson defender, but they didn't back their way in because they won 10 games in a regular season. They won the, obviously, schedule, whatever. But you can't win 10 games and say that you're backing your way in.
So you're good with Indiana being in this top 12 then. They will be in. You can't say Clemson didn't back their way in and then say Indiana should be out.
I mean, Indiana lost to the number 2 team in the nation.
Right.
Clemson lost. One of their losses was to Georgia. I think.
So if you're going with that, that's fine.
I think.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying if that's what we're saying, then Indiana's in and there's no questions about it.
Will Indiana be playing in a conference championship?
By the way, I don't know this. No, they're not. They will not. Well, I think it is not set in stone. I think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, Indiana would then be in because they've got one loss.
That might
Ohio
be,
State
to me,
2.
that's backing their way in, maybe. Like, that's sneaking their way in because they already lost to that team. I guess. I don't know. But I would find it hard to say.
Oh, so you're a committee member now, too, huh? I don't know. It just...
I would say, that's why I would say, just like a teacher, give me the rubrics so I can grade these folks and let me know what I'm doing. But it would be hard for me to say we had 10 wins and you said we're backing in. Like, we only played the games that we played.
803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. Texter says cornbread and dressing, too similar to be on the same plate.
Good observation.
I want to go back to this because somebody had a very hot take. Oh, here we go. John, cut all 3. There's enough bread in the Cheez-Its and the vegetable casserole. Bring on the meats.
Cheez-Its?
That's how I had to read it.
Okay, guess we're snacking before the meal.
Don't snack before.
He specifically puts Cheez-Its into the vegetable casserole. I was thinking green bean casserole probably, but
Interesting. I've never heard of doing that.
Interesting take. That sounds like a TikTok recipe. I'm suspicious.
You know, and some of the bread, it's interesting. Artia was very specific. Start the Hawaiian roll, bench the yeast roll, and cut the crescent roll. She's not even
straight
talking.
rolls.
Straight rolls.
She's going with the wide receiver side there. She needs a downfield threat, a slot guy. I like that. Wait, run that back one more time.
Yeah, it was. Where'd you go? Start the Hawaiian roll, bench the yeast roll. I actually like those. And then cut the crescent roll.
I do agree with cutting the crescent roll.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, oddly shaped.
And sometimes
Is it a croissant? What are you doing? Who are you?
Yeah, and if it's
Figure
not
yourself out.
if it's not homemade, it just tastes kind of processed. On that note, we'll take a break. It's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. We were introduced to them when we had to redo our kitchen, had to take it all the way down to the studs due to damage from a flood. And it was a great experience then. Photorealistic rendering of the finished kitchen was super helpful when it came to picking out everything else that we needed to finish out the kitchen. And we were so happy with them that when we needed cabinetry for an upstairs bathroom, we used them. And now in the master bath, we're also using them. Just had the cabinets installed last week. As a matter of fact, everything was great. They can help you with closets, maybe replacing wire hanging racks, put some drawers in your closet, maybe update your pantry, make it a little more functional, get some drawers in there. You get the drill. If you need to create a home office space, they can help with that as well. CHWCabinetry.com is a place to visit, or call them today at 803-520-6837. And always be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry, passion from inspiration to installation. Traffic-wise out there, we do have that report of an accident. Highway 602 near Old Orangeburg Road, one lane is blocked. And also Green Lawn Drive at Garner's Ferry, an accident there. And as far as forecast goes, 67. It's going to be our high today. 73 tomorrow. Enjoy the little bit warmer temperatures. Could see some rain, some showers, maybe even a thunder shower in the morning. It's looking, though, like the rain might be kind of disappearing after maybe lunchtime, after like 12 or 1. But then it gets cooler. 57 on Friday with the overnight low of 31, and we'll be in the mid-50s for a couple days. 50 right now.
$7:21 as we roll along here. Reminder about the perfect holiday gift. You can go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals. No, you can't purchase an official 1075 The Game shirt worn by Jen Jensen, but you can purchase a craft beer card, just $59. That's right. Go to 1075thegame.com, click on Sweet Deals, and you can purchase a craft beer card, only $59. That's a savings of around $300. Although we are pushing for show-worn attire by Jen Jensen to be on the 1075 The Game merchandise page.
Hey, it's probably you're saying that just because of my WKRP in Cincinnati shirt. That's why.
I was, and that is one of your favorite clips, and I'll be slightly disappointed if we do not get that clip at some point this morning.
It may actually be queued up.
That's what I figured. Know you very well. Speaking of being queued up real quick, give a shout-out. The University of South Carolina Band. We have now flipped over the television to the Today Show from 7 to 9. They are, I don't know if they've already performed or not, but somebody sent us a message, and so they will be on all morning from 7 to 9, performing at various points throughout the Today Show. They'll have a shared performance coming up at 10:30 this morning with the University of Massachusetts Minutemen Marching Band. No word if Frank Martin will be there. That will be taking place up there in New York, and a lot of other cool things. If you're listening and you're in New York this morning, you have downloaded our app, our 1075 The Game app, where you can listen anywhere. Apparently, you can head on over to the Mason Jar for a Carolina alumni, fans, and family meetup. Have a little lunch there.
That is a destination spot for me. I remember getting wind of that. I remember seeing them really first ball up during the Final Four run, the men's Final Four run that year, and it seems like a really cool place. So I will. Next time I do make it to New York City, I will definitely stop by the Mason Jar.
803-404-6100. Texter weighs in. Definitely cut the Hawaiian roll. This ain't dessert. Why are we making it sweet? Said that aggressively, too.
It's a hot take. It's a hot take.
Saying that. Very aggressive. Let's get out to the phone lines. Gamecock Larry wants to weigh in this morning. Gamecock Larry, how you feeling this morning?
Well, I'm feeling okay. But this Thanksgiving, what they were talking about, I heard you talking about all this food and stuff you eating. I'm going to have to turn my radio off because I'm going to be eating another GI plate of dressing look like this Thanksgiving. I don't know when I'm going to go home. Just waiting on Dr. Logan Carlisle to come in, take some more tests. Just remember, old Gamecock Larry loves all y'all. Keep me in your prayers. Clemson 20. Let me see. I done forgot. I can't. Yeah.
37-24.
37-24.
Yes, sir.
There you go. 37-24. Dabo gonna be packing his bag. He gonna be heading to Alabama after this season. Go Gamecocks. Love all y'all.
Love you too, buddy. Yeah, I've got 37-24 stamped in my brain because I think that is a legitimate final score chance there from Gamecock Lair. That does mean South Carolina is booting some field goals, I believe.
Dabo's threatened at least on 3 occasions that I can think about where he's talked about, I'll go somewhere else. Just saying.
Yeah, it's a good
Things
point.
are not going great.
Speaking of going somewhere else, Mack Brown and North Carolina will part ways after the end of the season. And this is actually just, it's not funny, but it's funny. Mack Brown basically coming out like, I'm back. I'm coming back. And North Carolina be like, we got to preemptive strike this thing. No, you're not. You're not coming back, boss. We've seen enough.
Especially since he already retired earlier this season.
Tried. That's a very, whatever happened in that locker room, very odd, very strange. If you forget, after the 70-50 loss to James Madison, there's differing opinions on what was said and what the context and meaning of what Mack Brown said. Some indicate that he essentially said that he couldn't do the job anymore and stepped away. Some people say that he said if he can't get the job, it's time to can't get the job done, it's time to step away. And some people basically said if he told the team, if y'all don't want to play for me, I'll step away. One of those 3 things occurred.
All of them sound like I'm stepping away. They all had the same thing in common. And what I said during that point was, when your mind starts to entertain the idea of stepping away, you're already gone. It's like a relationship. Like, man, if we're already talking about this, of separating, let's just go ahead and do this because it's only going to be misery for the rest of this year. And Mac, apparently they had different plans for you than you had for yourself. And it's sad. It's funny, but it's sad because Mac is a legend. He's well-liked. And I talked about this with Buddy Pugh. That's why I was so adamant about that being such a great story, because Coach Pugh could have stuck around. He could have hung around. You don't want to make it awkward with your legends where it's like, man.
Here's Matt, what happened, though.
Hey, Matt.
I mean, follow the timeline on this, because they fired him on Tuesday after on Monday he declared his intentions to return. And North Carolina went, it's not really your decision, boss. And here's, you know this, because here's what I feel like happened. Mack Brown and Bubba Cunningham had a meeting. And Mack Brown got the preemptive strike in, where Bubba was like, hey, look, we can let you go out on your own terms.
You do this the easy way or the hard way.
And Mack Brown left the meeting and was like, and basically called his own press conference. Was like, I'm back. I'm not going anywhere.
And again, he's a legend, very proud man. He wants to go out on his own terms. And I assume that Bubba Cunningham was going to attempt that. But also you wonder, like, have y'all been talking throughout the year? Have y'all not had any conversations throughout the year to kind of gauge, like, hey, Mac, this is what we're thinking here. You know, let's try and work our way around this. There could be a lot more of a smoother landing than having to fire him and him having to go out the door kicking and screaming. It's not a fitting ending for somebody who is so well-liked, such a legend in the coaching profession. But sometimes you got to know when it's time. Like Thanksgiving. This is Thanksgiving Day. Hey, at some point you got to leave the house. You know, like if you're the only one sitting around and everybody's like.
Does it make you slightly more appreciative of what Steve Spurrier did?
I never had a problem with what Steve Spurrier did. Me personally. That was just me. At the time, I never had a problem with that, because I do think that job is so intense that once your mind's not in it, you can't just show up every day. And so I personally never had a problem with it. I understand some people's issues with it, but I did appreciate the idea of him saying, look, man, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, because if you look at it, I mean, they had to drag Bobby Bowden out of the office there in Tallahassee. Obviously, a lot of different things were factored in, but the Joe Paterno situation at Penn State, I mean, this is another older coach. Mack Brown is 73. And I think the problem for North Carolina is they looked around, and it's not that Mack Brown was driving that program into the ground. They're 6-5. They're going to go to a bowl game. But with Mack Brown, you didn't see anything that suggested the program was going to take a step and be competitive for the top half of the ACC or to get into the college football playoff. Like, it was just – that's the way I looked at North Carolina. I was like, well, they're just about to go anywhere from 7-5 to 5-7 for the remainder of Mack Brown's tenure, and then they'll move on to somebody else.
Yeah, I had personal experience with this. One with Lou Holtz, we had some of those conversations where his situation was he wanted to leave. They didn't want to let him leave, kind of like Spurrier. And I played for John McKissick. In 1998, John McKissick, we won the state championship. That was supposed to be his last year after he had already coached for 45 years. He ended up coaching for 52 years, right? So sometimes it's hard for these guys to let go. But Mac, salute on a great career. I'm sad it had to end that way, but kind of told you so.
Rolling along. It's the early game. 107.5 The Game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Right now, they are on the hunt to find the oldest AC unit in their Midlands service area. How old is your heating and air unit? Let me ask you that. If you're thinking, 25, maybe it's long, it's old. Well, guess what? Maybe you can win a brand new one. Go to myoldair.com, complete the online entry form. AAA Heating and Air will draw a winner at random for every 100 entries. You heard that right. For every 100 entries, they will draw a winner at random. So to register your unit for this contest, go to myoldair.com. Contest is for a limited time only. Only residents in the AAA Heating and Air service area are eligible to enter. Go to their website, myoldair.com, to see the terms and rules for the full contest rules. Again, go to AAA Heating and Air or give them a phone call today if you want to look into purchasing a brand new one. You can get a free replacement estimate. 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Platte Springs Road near Old Orangeburg Road, an accident there where we do have a lane that is blocked. Also, Lady at Hugie should be cleaned up here pretty soon. So those are really the only traffic slowdowns that we're encountering this morning. 67 will be our high today, 73 tomorrow, maybe some rain and thunderstorms in the earlier part of the day, likely clearing out sometime after 12 or 1. But that ushers in that cold front where we are seeing on Friday the high of 57, overnight low 31, 53 for Saturday, 55 on Sunday. And that's when we're getting into those overnight lows being in the 30s and even into the 20s to start the work week. Right now, we're sitting at 50, though, at 107.5 The Game.
.36 as we roll along. Reminder, we'll get you going first thing Saturday morning, 7 a.m., Gamecock game day, and then the noon kickoff. And, of course, you can go to the watch party over at O'Hara's Public House. 13 Jen, is that 13? I'm reading Jen's handwriting. Is that 131 Main Street in Lexington?
That, yeah, 131 Main.
131 Main Street in Lexington. We'll have our watch party there, but we'll get you going 7 a.m. Gamecocks game day on Saturday. And a reminder, obviously we're off tomorrow. In case I say obviously as if y'all would know that for sure, but we are off tomorrow, but we will be back on Friday morning to really get you ready for Carolina Clemson. A top 15 showdown that we'll get into in just a minute. Preston's got a question on the college football playoff rankings, but let me get back to some of these bench cut starts, our start cut bench. David weighed in earlier. Start the rolls, bench the cornbread, cut the biscuit. Another texter went with same. Start the rolls, bench the cornbread, and cut the biscuits. That seems to be the popular opinion for everybody in terms of what they're wanting here.
That seems fair. Yeah, Biscuit, we know you play hard. We know you bring a lot of things to this team, but today's not your day. We have a different game plan. Today's not the day for you.
And then from the first hour, whatever we were at, texter weighs in, fruitcake doesn't even qualify as food. Ray weighed in with ambrosia equals abomination, and another texter said fruitcake, hard pass. Emphatically no, an abomination.
I try not to yuck anybody's yums, but that's testing my tolerance right there.
By the way, there was another texter who weighed in. I missed this, and this actually sounded pretty delicious the other day. Somebody weighed in our meats, our depth chart on the meats, and suggested lamb chops with rosemary and garlic.
Solid. I do tend to think of lamb more as an Easter thing. Okay. Obviously, there's something with that. But, yeah, it's cool.
And then this sounds like a breakfast that you would have prior to your Thanksgiving meal. This is from Les. He said, hey, Bill, a bacon celly biscuit with egg. Bacon, cheese, egg, and grape jelly.
Always a winner. Always a winner, but maybe not today. Maybe this is not your day to go out here and make plays.
And then Rooster P, our good buddy Rooster P, driving all over yesterday. He was in Maryland. Said, no bread for me, especially with dressing and casseroles.
I get it. I just question your commitment. Rooster P, I question your commitment to this Thanksgiving thing. I understand what you're saying there, but come on, suck it up.
Yeah, I'd like a half a roll is probably good enough because at least you've sampled it. But I have to at least have the half, but I don't have to have a whole.
Okay. All right. We'll get to more. Keep sending them in. One texter, by the way, says cornbread is for chili and potato soup. Start the rolls, bench the biscuits, cut the cornbread.
Ooh.
That's a different take. Good take, though. Good take. 803-404-6100. We'll get into some dessert conversation coming up next. But I think you have an interesting question here as we look at these college football playoff rankings, and we are learning. But what is more valuable? A quality. What do you deem more important? A quality win or a bad loss. Notre Dame has the bad loss to Northern Illinois. Do we just kind of shrug that off because they've won the rest of them? Indiana doesn't have a quality win really on their schedule. Maybe you give them Michigan. I don't know. You get eye of the beholder on that one. But Indiana doesn't have a quality win. Notre Dame's got a few quality wins. Notre Dame's got an awful loss. Indiana has a loss where you go, all right, you lost the number 2 team in the country in 38-15.
Yeah, and this makes me wonder where is your value, and this can go for a lot of different things. Me specifically, I think I value I just can't get over you having a terrible loss on your record, like a really bad blemish, because I'm always nervous that team might show up again. And so I would always, if I was on the committee, I would really be looking at what I would consider just a time where the team totally lost focus, i.e. Northern Illinois, or some other really, really bad loss where I would look and say, I don't want that team to show up in this tournament again. So that's how I think I would be looking and evaluating this team. So if we was to say this in the South Carolina aspect, according to them, we don't have any bad losses, right? Because
LSU's a bad loss now.
Good point.
LSU's a bad loss.
That's a good
if
point.
you want to, I mean, obviously we can go down the ref angle there, but I don't want to do that. But LSU has now become a bad loss.
What's LSU's record now?
7-4.
Okay.
Now you got me going back to check that. I'm just glancing through Missouri. Missouri's number 21 in the most recent polls. Their losses are to Texas A&M at number 20, obviously South Carolina at number 15, and Alabama at number 13.
Well, then this gets into the question of what is a bad loss. Is it just any loss that's not outside the top 25? Is there a line here where we consider anything below this a bad loss? What is a good win?
You brought up something. You said it was off of.
Yeah, it was from SEC StatCat, and he was saying that with this new system, it's time for college football to move to a system like college basketball where they have quadrant values for wins. Is this a quad 1 game, quad 2 game, quad 3, quad 4, etc.? That way we can all know the values of these games that we're dealing with. Because as you said, LSU would be considered it's not great anymore.
They've lost 3 of their last 4. They beat Vanderbilt by a touchdown, but they lost by 15 to A&M. They got smacked by Alabama there by 29, and then the Florida loss. And yes, for those of you out there saying, well, if it's a bad loss for South Carolina, it's a bad loss for Mississippi, that's very true. That's very true. So now your resume of South Carolina and Mississippi and the University of Mississippi really again comes back to head to head.
And they won.
They've got it, yeah.
But that was then.
And that's where, like, okay, again, because at the time in September, we were like, well, that's not it's a bad loss because of the way it happened, not because of the teams. Now, to me, and LSU 7-4, by the way, but now you look at it and you're like, you should have won that game. Should have won that game, regardless of the officials. Should have won that game. South Carolina, Mississippi's got that loss on there. It's the same thing. And quite honestly, again, if you want to go down the path, you look at Mississippi and you go, look, it's kind of like this. In week 2, South Carolina thumped Kentucky, and we went, wow, what a win. What a great win. Not only did we beat Stoops, but Kentucky's going to be bowl eligible. That's going to be great. Ooh, it's not a good win anymore. And Mississippi's lost to Kentucky now looks worse at home. That's a bad loss.
So this game on Saturday will potentially be South Carolina's best win of the season. Moving rivalry aside, moving personal thing, based just strictly on metrics, this will be their best win of the season?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you're to do the numbers, which is rankings, South Carolina would then own wins. Now, Texas A&M's got to play Texas. I think they lose, and I wouldn't be surprised if Texas A&M falls out of the rankings. But Missouri, you would then have wins over end of season ranked teams, likely Missouri, and you'd have it over Clemson. So you'd have 2 ranked victories in that situation, and you'd have 2 ranked losses, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll finish talking about that. We'll get into some desserts. We've held off long enough. But keep sending in your bench cut starts for the rolls there, as we will have to get into that a little bit. 803-404-6100. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. You've heard me talk about them. You've heard me talk about you thinking about your roof. But in this situation, I want to remind you, the reason that Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry for nearly 30 years is because they do think about your roof 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are ready to take your phone call. It doesn't matter if it's 7:45 right now. It doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. Let's be honest. When you discover a leak, you need to have it fixed and you need to have it worked on right then. You can't wait several hours to have somebody come out. That's what has made Mid-State Roofing the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. So give them a phone call. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're going to speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can visit them online, midstateroofing.com. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. $7.49. And we get a hot take from Steven from Roanoke. No true Southerner can cut biscuits or cornbread. Cut rolls have dual QBs, biscuits and cornbread. Casey and Gilbert, start flaky biscuits with giblet gravy, bench Hawaiian rolls, cut the cornbread. That's for chili and buttermilk. And the Gamecocks win 20-10. One more for you here. This is good. Charlie weighs in. Says, give cornbread a lucrative NIL deal. Bench biscuits until leftovers come in the game, and let rolls hit the transfer portal.
Whoa.
There you go.
Ooh.
There you go. 803-404-6100. So that's been our rolls discussion this morning. You ready to go down the path of desserts now?
Yeah, how we going to finish this thing off? Right? what is the dessert that you must have to finish this thing off on Thanksgiving? And it's just really simple. This is going to be a one thing that you need. You need one person to make a play.
Okay.
The dessert has to finish the game. When dessert comes trying out, 2 seconds left in the game, what dessert is going to make the kick? Which dessert is going to finish the game for you?
I think this is an interesting discussion here, because what you get now is, are you going for what I would almost say is a seasonal dish?
Mm-hmm.
Philip on our live stream goes peach cobbler, that sounds delicious.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds great. Peach cobbler's for the 4th of July, though. But I understand where Philip's coming from. You asked, what is his, that's basically his go-to. See, I feel like I have to go seasonal here. Lauren makes a bourbon pecan pie that I will have to, that will be the go-to tomorrow. You can always throw something chocolatey out there. You can go pumpkin pie, which would be, but see, like, in some people, which I think this is crazy, but some people throw a key lime pie out there. I don't think that's seasonal. So to answer your question, mine would have to be the bourbon pecan pie that we will have. And I'll fight people over if we don't make 2 of them.
That's fair. That's fair. Also, you may be the possibility you say, hey, we're not doing dessert. I'm going back.
And I think that's also part of it.
Is that an option also?
I think dessert is actually on Thanksgiving is wildly overrated.
Ooh, okay. See, this is why we have to have these conversations.
York on our live stream goes with apple pie with ice cream. Again, sounds delicious, but not seasonal.
You don't think apples are seasonal? Fall?
I don't feel like an apple pie. I can see where you go. It'd have to be more of like a cinnamon apple crisp type of.
Crisp.
Yeah.
Crumble, if you will.
Crumble, yeah. Yeah. Ian says, Ian on our Clemson, by the way, he's our resident Clemson fan. He battles all the Gamecock fans on our live stream every morning.
Appreciate your service.
Shout out to you, Ian. He says, just let pumpkin pie kick it. Just take the 3 points.
I'm just going to be honest, man. Pumpkin pie is going to shank it.
I think it is an acquired taste. I like it. My daughter likes it, but not everybody does.
If I see
pumpkin pie is the Houston Texans kicker from Sunday who missed the 28-yarder.
If I see pumpkin pie trotting out there to win this game, I'm leaving the stands.
That's a serious take.
Pumpkin pie.
Is it double doink?
Was that field goal kick against Alabama? If you remember from our season earlier this year, that kick to me was symbolic of pumpkin pie.
I took out a cheerleader on the Alabama sideline.
That's my pumpkin pie take. Mm-hmm. Respect to everybody who does, but not.
What about cherry cheese pie?
Is that like cream cheese? Just the
cream cheese and Cool Whip and some powdered sugar.
I feel like
cherry filling on top.
Sounds good.
Never had it. All of those ingredients are cool with me, so I think I'd be all right with it.
Maybe that's a Friday morning sampling I should bring in for breakfast.
Wouldn't be mad with it.
Okay.
I mean, it has fruit on top. It has to be good for you.
It's true.
There's that old adage. Several of y'all. Stu weighing in, a couple others. Sweet potato pie.
Now we talking.
Going with that. Tiger Hater weighs in and goes chocolate chip pecan. By the way, I apologize. I don't want to go down this path with y'all, but I do understand, and I can ask real quick. Pecan or pecan?
I think, yeah.
Let's not. You want to open up a real can of worms. But a couple people have weighed in agreeing with me, and then correcting my grammar on pecan or pecan.
I will say what I've always said. If it's pecan, to me, that is something you take in the car for a road trip.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
A couple of y'all going with banana pudding. And that was a reason I didn't want to go down that path. Chocolate Delight. Trey says, pumpkin pie is the Jad Dean of desserts. Had to get that one in there. The co-pilot says, I like to make a no-bake cherry cheese, the same thing you just said, cherry cheese pie, but I can't put cinnamon on it.
Oh, yeah, I don't.
In it. Cinnamon in it.
No cinnamon in ours.
He says his dad gets mad.
Oh.
Send in your desserts. Send in your desserts. Keep sending in your bench cut starch for the rolls. Don't worry, we'll do a whole nother hour and we'll get back into some football discussion. Is the SEC really good or kind of mid? Preston Thorne's going to ask you that, and then we'll get more into rivalry discussion as we roll along here. It's a Wednesday morning on the early game. Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, and Jen Jensen.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with your insurance company to take away the headache. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will take care of it for you. Now, if you're looking to increase the value of your home with new windows and mirrors, Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. Say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Green Lawn Drive at Garner's Ferry Road. We have a report of an accident there. And also Highway 602 at Old Orangeburg Road. Also a report that they're on Platte Springs near MacArthur Road. That's kind of there at Boiling Springs. There's a couple of trucks involved. One is overturned. So that also is going to be slowing you down, Platte Springs near MacArthur Drive. And that forecast will be changing for sure. 67 today, 73 with rain and thunderstorms in the morning. Should be clearing out at this point, maybe sometime after noon or 1. But that brings in the cooler weather. 57 for Friday, 53 on Saturday, 55 on Sunday. And those overnight lows in the 30s and even in the 20s.
8 a.m. I feel like this is when you're happiest, Preston. Food discussion. You just dragged me right along with you.
Let's do it, man. What else are we going to talk about today? Food and football? Perfect combination.
You were excited today to come in.
This is right in my Venn diagram of expertise.
Yeah, you were thrilled to come in and get into the rolls discussion, the desserts discussion, and several of y'all weighing in. Chris with a pretty good one here. Cannoli would have to be my go-to for dessert. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody in my family makes them, so that wouldn't be an option for me. But I'm here for it. Absolutely. From a nice bakery, yeah, let's go.
Case is trying to give everybody a case of heart disease. He goes with smoked, bacon, wrapped, double stuffed Oreos.
Yes.
I don't know. That's
sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, you got that going, and a couple Butterfinger pie from Paulie is weighing in with the desserts. So we've got plenty of that going this morning. Also, I
would just want to ask, do you need a dessert? Because there might be some people who abstain, and they're like, you know what, I don't even need a dessert. And I can understand that.
I can understand that because you got so much food. Another texture goes in with start brown and serve rolls with a slice of butter on top, bench Hawaiian rolls, and cut the cornbread.
Okay. All right. I can hear everybody's conversation.
There you go.
Biscuits have been getting a bad look today.
Yeah.
Biscuits are on the sideline looking like, hey, Coach, why can't I get in?
Yeah, what did I do wrong?
What's up with my snap count? Snap count.
I've been practicing hard, too. Let me in there. 803-404-6100. So Preston's got us covered on the food. Jen's offered her opinions there. We've covered that. A lot of y'all going with the pecan rum pie or some kind of pecan pie, which, again, I kind of agree, seasonal. I feel like that is a Thanksgiving kind of feast or way to wrap it up. So continue to send those in. We've also talked football this way. Now, let me ask you this. Jim weighs in and says, when we lost LSU, they were top 5. I don't know if they were 5, but I know they were up there. I'll go back and look. He says, when we lost LSU, they were top 5. No way you call that a bad loss. And when we beat top 10 Texas A&M at the time, so no way beating Clemson would be our best win. Rankings when the games were played do matter. Yes or no on that?
As with everything, I think there's a little caveat here. LSU was game 3 of the season.
Correct.
Game 3 of the season. Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, just because they were ranked 5 at the third game doesn't mean that they were the 5th best team in the nation. That's based on preseason rankings. That's based on things that they thought were going to happen. So I would say, yes, maybe rankings later in the season, maybe say after game 5 or something like that. But I don't think anything before game 5
LSU
really
was
matters.
16, by the way, not top 5.
Okay.
LSU was number 16.
Then I think it's – and again, plus it's preseason. That's what people thought they were going to be. And why did they think they were going to be? Oh, because they have Brian Kelly. Oh, Garrett Sussmeyer's there. It's LSU. Why shouldn't they be good?
Well, and
there was really no reason.
What I would respond to is because we talk about Texas. I mean, if you're going off of, because we said what is the best win for Texas this year? What is the best win for Texas? Well, obviously, if you're going off of Jim's theory, they have a top 10 win. They beat number 10 Michigan.
Right.
So Texas, if you're going off that theory, by the way, is 3-1 in top 25 games. They beat number 10 Michigan, they beat number 18 Oklahoma, and they beat number 25 Vanderbilt. So all of a sudden, if you're doing that, Texas' strength of schedule looks entirely different when you're like, well, they played 4 games against top 25 teams. They did have the one loss to number 5 Georgia. So I'm with you. I think it's an open-ended. I mentioned the thing about LSU being a bad loss, and a lot of people chimed in on different things, to which I agree. Yes, Kentucky beat Mississippi. Mississippi has a bad – Ole Miss has 2 bad losses. Florida on the road and Kentucky at home are bad losses. And that's what they are. And I guess now that I say it all out loud and as I work through it in my head, their 3 losses are to LSU, Kentucky, and Florida. That's definitely not Mississippi, Alabama, and LSU. So if we look at that spectrum, now they do have the great win against Georgia, but if you look at it through that spectrum, you do say, all right, the committee right now is valuing head-to-head in Mississippi and South Carolina.
This is why I keep going back to the idea of preseason rankings mean more. When coaches keep trying to say, oh, the preseason rankings don't mean anything, they do, because it shapes the way that we see teams throughout the season. And teams that start off highly ranked and have poor seasons have a longer way to fall than other teams. And just like you see us at South Carolina, it's been very difficult for us to claw our way up into this point because we started way outside.
Not that this is relevant at all to the college football playoff, but Ronnie makes a great example. Look at Florida State. Georgia Tech beat them, and Florida State was, I think, 10th or 9th.
Thought it was a great win. Man, Georgia Tech's on their way.
Huge upset.
And they've had a good season, but
Georgia Tech has.
But it has not been. It's not the win that we thought it was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're going with that. 803-404-6100. You can weigh in. Again, we've talked a lot about the college football playoff. Again, rankings coming out last night for that. Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4. Notre Dame is 5. And look, Preston, going back to what we said, you go, well, who is Notre Dame beat? Well, who have they beat? Well, they beat number 20 Texas A&M to open the season. They beat number 15 Louisville during the season. If you go by rankings, they beat number 24 Navy and they beat number 19 Army. And of course, they've got that bad loss. What matters more? A really bad loss in game 2 to Northern Illinois, 16-14, or do you give them credit for, as Jim said, beating 4 ranked teams when they played them? I think there's a lot here that we'll continue to learn about. I do feel and think the committee is going to base head-to-head most as some deciding factors for that final 1 or 2 at-large spots.
And I would not have any problem with that because that's why you play the games. And it should mean something when you play somebody and you lose to them.
Tonight, right here, 107.5 The Game, you can hear South Carolina men's basketball. We'll get the pregame going at 5:30, and then the game taking place at 6 o'clock. Gamecocks take on Virginia Tech down at the Fort Myers tip-off. And Preston, I said it, we haven't talked a whole lot of basketball, obviously, this week, really more centered around football. But Gamecocks at 3-3. They're about a 4.5 to 5 point favorite today, depending on where you look. I just feel like this is a game that shoves your season into one of two directions. You win this game, you got a nice string of solid games coming up. Boston College, East Carolina, Clemson, all in there. You lose this game, you fall to 3-4 with that string of games coming up, and it just feels like you're playing so far behind the 8 ball. And as I mentioned, 9 SEC teams, 9 in the top 25, 4 in the top 10 alone. This isn't the SEC we grew up with Kentucky and Arkansas, and that was it.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame. For me, when I do see this game, I'm going to be looking squarely at rebounds, specifically offensive and offensive rebounds, because Lamont Paris was very clear in saying that he thought they got, his words, punked several times. And that's not my words. Those are his words. And so we want to be able to see if that is a trend that continues, because earlier in the season, they got punked against the Ospreys. Who was that? Northern Florida, the Ospreys. Mm-hmm. That is something that has been happening. So I want to see if that's something that they can get corrected. Now, you having more knowledge of basketball and what it looks like, what are you looking for in the game?
I'm looking for chemistry and cohesiveness, and you can just sense when teams are having fun. And maybe they are having fun, but the body language doesn't suggest it, Preston. It just doesn't. I think we can all, whether you're no matter you say, well, I know more of it. I guess what I'm going for is like I'm watching this football team and they're having fun.
Right. You can feel it.
They're having fun. I watched last year's basketball team and they were having fun. This team isn't an alpha. This is not a bad basketball team that Lamont Paris has. It's a talented team. There are good pieces. This is not year one, okay? This is not year one. He has got good pieces on this team. He's got guys who can score. He's got guys that can handle the ball. He's got guys that can rebound and should rebound better. He's got guys that can shoot the ball better. But it just – I might go as far as to say talent, pure talent, not basketball IQ and not togetherness and chemistry. Pure basketball talent, this team's probably better than last year's team. Probably. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. There's a lot of people when they lost Meechie Johnson that went, oh, who cares? He couldn't make a shot. Well, Meechie had an attitude about him that permeated the team. Talon Cooper, I said it last year, doing that thing we did again yesterday. We tried to tell you, if Talon Cooper had been able to play 2 or 3 years here, we might be talking about him as one of the best all-time point guards to come through this program because of the way he ran the team. Talon Cooper was the old guy at the YMCA. He doesn't dunk. He doesn't do anything overly flashy. He doesn't turn the ball over. He runs the team, and his physical size allowed him to do things that they simply cannot do with this team. But that team looked fun. This team right now looks painful for them to play the game. And I'm seeing that now more and more, having watched the North Florida game and thinking that in the initial game, having watched 5 of and really watched that Mercer game, and Mercer's not good, they don't look like they're having fun.
Everything feels like a grind.
Yeah.
Everything feels like a grind. And that's not a recipe for success for the season.
So that's what you got there when it comes to tonight's game. Again, 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock tip-off. It's interesting. Preston will continue down the desserts discussion. We'll continue down the rolls discussion. But I think there's a lot of you out there because Jim, again, weighs in and says until they do away with early season rankings, they should mean something. Well, that's fine, but again, that early season ranking, that means Texas has a great win on their resume with the win over Michigan because Michigan was number 10. Will says Texas' best win is Colorado State.
Walk me through that.
I believe he's going with record on that one.
Okay.
Is where he's going with that because of now Michigan we know is suspect. Depends on what you want to think about Oklahoma. Here's a good one.
Oklahoma's terrible.
So that's a great win because we beat the name Oklahoma, not we beat 2024. Like, yeah, you got to throw that win out for South Carolina. But I think South Carolina's trying to rest more on Texas A&M and Missouri as great wins. And then you would obviously have this Clemson win. And yes, to answer the question, if you beat Clemson, it is the best win of the season. And not because it's the rivalry game, but it is the best. I think it would be the best win of the season. On the road, a team that I think is equal to Texas A&M and Missouri. Maybe I know they're ranked higher. But it would be on the road. It would be the best win of the season.
That's fair.
And the other part of that, a couple people are weighing in that I do agree with. As you make these college football decisions, these playoff decisions, who is in contention and playing best at this time of the year? And I think South Carolina is one of those teams that is playing 6 straight wins with 4, I guess. You'd throw Vanderbilt in there, but 3 that would still be ranked. A lot to get to there. 803-404-6100. But that'll bring us to the next one that you want to get into. Is the SEC good? Mid? Uh-oh. Preston's got his hands up.
I don't know, man.
Join in on the program this morning. I can see a lot of y'all. The text line is picking up now, and you know why that is. A lot of people are starting to wake up this morning and get going.
Maybe we have to rehash some stuff for the 6 o'clock.
Texter weighs in. Skip dessert. Go back for seconds.
Fair.
Favorite Thanksgiving food is potato filling. Imagine mashed potatoes and stuffing had a child. Okay, there's that. Another texter weighs in. Oreo cheesecake on the dessert.
Give me it all.
And Papa Joe goes with candied yams is basically dessert. There you go. We got all the bases covered this morning. 803-404-6100. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Are you in the market for a brand new heating and air unit? Well, you could win one if you have the oldest heating and air unit here in the Midlands. You can sign up for the My Oldest Air contest with AAA Heating and Air. That's right. Go to myoldair.com. Register for every 100 for every 100 entries. AAA Heating and Air will draw one lucky winner. That's right. For every 100 entries, AAA Heating and Air will draw one lucky winner. So that's one way you can win a new heating and air unit. Go to myoldair.com, sign up today, or you can give them a phone call, check into the prices. You can get a free replacement estimate today. That's right, a free replacement estimate. Give them a phone call, 803-677-1500. Ask about a free replacement estimate, and then see about purchasing a brand new one. You can get no payments and no interest until November of 2025. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you, 803-677-1500.
And out there on the highways this morning, Flat Springs Road near MacArthur Road, have an overturned vehicle there, so be careful in that stretch of road right there, kind of at Boiling Springs. And aside from that, there aren't really any other incidences to let you know about. 67, that's going to be where we top out today. 73 tomorrow, that rain and thunderstorm activity should be clearing out sometime after like 12 or 1. Then it becomes cooler, overnight low of 44 tomorrow night. Friday and Saturday, 57 and 53 with overnight lows in 30s. And by Monday, really, 50 degrees and lows in the 20s. It's 50 right now.
Reminder, Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. You can go to 1075thegame.com and get registered. That pot now at $1,200. No special teams touchdowns through 11 games.
Not yet.
There was actually, sadly, this contest, we would have kept on doing it. It would have started anew the following week. But remember, there was a special teams touchdown that got called back in the opening game. Thought there'd be many more by now. But you can go to 1075thegame.com and get registered. And if South Carolina scores a special teams touchdown on Saturday, guess what? We will pull a winner there to try and get you $1,200 that you would be more than glad to have during the holiday season. So weigh in and do that. 803-404-6100. Jesse in the upstate says 2 things aren't going to get used this weekend. Tiny dessert plates and Alex Herrera. Give me the full-sized plate with all desserts and Gamecocks by 50. He said 50, but I tried to Gamecocks by 50. And then he goes, no offense to the Herrera family. And yes, I understand the irony that he does kick PATs. So
shout out to you all.
Thank you to Jesse in the upstate. And then Chris weighed in as I wrapped up the previous segment. Did you just say mid? So, yes, Preston Thorne, you were asking the question, is the SEC elite or is it mid this year? Where are you going with this?
I'm wondering, is anybody good? I mean, is everybody good or is anybody good? Because one of the arguments we've always had for the SEC is that also rough and tumble league, they beat everybody up, and that's sort of the thing that we talk about. But when you start looking at SEC games, you look at who's beating who. I'm just wondering, is the SEC head and shoulders above the rest of the conferences as we purport ourselves to be? Just a little bit of self-reflection. Like Vandy, are they any good? Or is everybody else just not that good?
Okay, there's 2 ways to look at it. Number one, a lot of people would point to, like, what was it, opening weekend, I believe, of the college football season. Miami blew out Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, blew them out. Mm-hmm. So you move Florida down. Southern Cal beat LSU on opening weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying. There was a few others. I'd have to go all the way back to opening weekend. But if you remember, there were questions about the SEC. Well, also, I think, unfortunately, South Carolina barely beat Old Dominion, and everybody's like, "Oh, did you see that? That's not good."
Mm-hmm.
But I think the SEC has rebounded very well as the season has gone along to kind of offset that. My answer to you is yes. The SEC is as loaded top to bottom this year as it has been in a long time. I think you could stick, look, no offense to the ACC or the Big 12, you could put Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee in that conference. I believe in South Carolina out, but you can put South Carolina, and they're right there. They probably win the conference, or 2 of those 4 finish at the top. Miami's defense is absolutely atrocious.
Correct.
Keep an eye on that this weekend against Syracuse. I don't know how good SMU is. I have no clue. And I almost feel like, now I was on the, mind you, was on the SMU bandwagon early in the year. Remember I told you, of course, then they benched your guy, Preston Stone.
Yeah.
I benched that fella. But I did really like SMU before the season, and then they lost that game to BYU. That was kind of an odd game early on. But
then we found out who BYU was.
Right. Because, I mean, again, you look at SMU on the season, they have 2 wins against ranked opponents, Louisville and Pittsburgh. Beat Louisville by 7, beat Pittsburgh by 23. Other than that, Virginia, Boston College, Duke, Stanford, Florida State, TCU, Houston Christian, and Nevada are their other wins. They have California on Saturday at 3:30.
I guess what I'm wondering is for myself.
So to go back to answer your question, I think the Big Ten and the SEC are about even, whatever that means, however you want to rank them. But I do think the SEC is deeper this year than the Big Ten, so that would make them the number 1 conference. But I think you could take a list of those teams I just mentioned, put them in the ACC or the Big 12, and you got your winner right there.
Well, this goes back to what Dabo was complaining about. He was saying basically right now this is a Big Ten SEC invitational, and all the other conferences are getting squeezed out. And what you're saying is, yeah, you're right. You're getting squeezed out because you're not as good. And other teams are saying, well, we should have a chance to compete. I guess what I'm thinking is I have to, and maybe we all have to reframe what we think is a good team, because it is kind of shocking to see 2-loss, 3-loss teams considered good in college football. Normally, when you think 3 losses, like, yeah, they're fine, but they're not teams that can win the championship, when our mind is sort of conditioned to be a 1 loss, maybe 0 losses, and that's what we used to think of as being dominant, and I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Well, if we just expand it out, we would not be discussing 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 right now. 10 being Indiana, who's got 1 loss. Boise's got 1 loss at 11. Clemson's got 2 losses. Bama, Mississippi, South Carolina all have 3 losses, and Arizona State has 2. So now we're broadening our scope of who we're talking about, as opposed to, look, if this is last year, we're looking at it going, Oregon, Ohio State is essentially a playoff game in the Big Ten championship to get into the actual college football playoff. Texas, Georgia will probably play an elimination game in the SEC. I'm assuming Texas. I'm picking Texas, if you're wondering, to win this weekend over Texas A&M. We would be asking, does Penn State deserve to be in with 1 loss to Ohio State? We'd be asking about Notre Dame. We'd be asking about Miami. This would be a unique year, and then we'd probably be talking about 7 teams for the 4-team college football playoff. Now we're at 12. We've expanded. We've doubled, I think, the number of teams we're talking about, all the way down to number 16, Arizona State.
So what you're saying is that on any given day, one of these mid-tier SEC teams can beat a top-tier team from another conference?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, I think it's expanded out. Oregon is undefeated, but I don't know if Oregon is truly a dominant team. You know, we all know what dominant teams look like. We've seen Alabama for years, and even with, when Clemson had Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, we've seen dominant teams. We know what they look like. I don't see a dominant team out there. Like, if I asked you right now, the number 1 team, the only undefeated team in the country, do this, 803-404-6100. I'll throw out another question to you this morning. Right now, going into the final weekend of the season, would you take Oregon, the number 1 team in the country, or would you take the field?
The field.
I think it's great. Look, I love it. I'm not sure I love how we got here with transfer portal and NIL and all that and conference realignment, but I love it. I love what we're getting. I think it's the most exciting college football season we've seen in a very, very long time. And I know Alabama's got 3 losses, but they've got a dynamic player in Jalen Milroe. If it's Alabama and Oregon in the national championship, just hypothetically, if you had those 2 teams, are you instantly rolling with Oregon? I mean, are you just slapping your hand down on the table with a $100 bill going, I'm taking Oregon? I don't think you are.
I see what you're saying.
I love it. I love it. We may have to come back to this next week. Teams you don't want to win the championship. Penn State's in there. Penn State can go and win a national championship. They're going to get a shot. They're going to have a home game in the opening round. They're going to have a chance. And then you'd have to watch James Franklin raise a trophy over that bald head of his with his glasses.
It's the glasses, man. Those little glasses.
So I think that is
You've just intrigued me more because now I'm looking at this and saying, who do I least want to win the championship?
Yeah.
And I have to switch the rankings on this. Penn State, I'm absolutely being very high, followed by Ohio State. I could do a real quick one on that one.
Nope. Nobody probably wants Notre Dame because they'll be like, you didn't play in a conference. You didn't have to go through a conference championship
I believe
game.
that would be Jen's number one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Notre Dame, the number one team, you don't want to win a national championship?
Oh, absolutely not. That would just be like, yeah, bah humbug.
Yeah, we're going to have to come
It
back
would
to
be
that.
like having someone show up to your Thanksgiving, slap down a fruit cake, and be like, I brought dessert.
You know what? That's it. Notre Dame is the fruitcake.
803-404-6100 this morning if you want to weigh in. What is your go-to dessert? Bench cut start, crescent rolls. We've had people break down the roll situation, not just rolls, cornbread, and Hawaii. What was the other one? Cornbread and biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've got so much. Weigh in. We got 2 more segments to do it. You're listening to the early game.
Things have picked up a little bit out there on the highways this morning. Clemson Road at I-20. Also, I-20 eastbound there at I-26. Report of an accident in Malfunction Junction. Still getting things cleaned up. Platte Springs Road near MacArthur Road involving 2 pickup trucks and 1 was overturned. So caution as you approach that area. And we're looking for a high today of 67, 73 tomorrow with some rain and maybe thunderstorms in the morning. And then the cooling trend dives in. 57 Saturday or Friday, 57 Friday, 53 on Saturday, 55 on Sunday. But those overnight lows dancing around the low 30s and upper 20s. And that will continue into the start of the work week. But actually, it's dropped a couple degrees. It's 47 currently on the early game.
Another shout out to the South Carolina Marching Band. They just had director there. They had the director, I believe, was it Jay Jacobs? Did I get that correct?
Jay Jacobs, man, what a head of hair he had on him.
Yeah.
Beautiful swath.
Had a nice garnet jacket on. They had Craig Melvin decked out in a band uniform, and that's on the Today Show as they get ready to march in the Macy's Day Parade tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun. Again, hope all of you, we like to cut up and have fun, but we do hope all of you have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow and enjoy great food, where a couple of y'all continue to weigh in with your different desserts. Zach, Jen, let us know what you think. Preston and I just had this discussion off air in studio. Zach says best dessert, hands down, apple pie with a slice of cheddar melted on top.
That would be what my father-in-law loved.
Really?
That's not for me, but yep, he had to have that slice of cheddar on it. Or he would do American cheese too. Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Now, KT from Lexington's playing his own game. Start cherry yum yum, bench pecan pie, and cut egg custard. Appreciate the phone call. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. Jamie weighs in 42-20. Go Cox. 42-20. Gamecock Larry has 37-24. Do you put much stock in tomorrow, if Saturday, if Georgia beats up on Georgia Tech, South Carolina beats up on Clemson, Kentucky beats up on Louisville? Who cares what happens to Florida State? But if the SEC sweeps, do you put any stock into that, making the SEC?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we need to beat them because I think we have a bigger, better, stronger, faster conference, all of that stuff. But if we don't win in the head-to-heads, they will have ammo for an argument.
Well, I don't think there's any question. The SEC. I mean, we're homers here. The SEC is the best conference, hands down. All others, just they don't deserve to even play in this college football. Let's go to the phone lines. Grant wants to weigh in on our SEC bias. Grant, how you doing this morning?
Gave you the heads up on what I was going to call you guys.
Say that again. I apologize. We didn't get you potted up just in time.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm guessing Jen gave you the heads up on what I was going to call you guys.
Oh, yeah. We're smart around here.
I think SEC folks are a little delusional on what they deserve. And I'll tell you, just this last weekend, I spent time in Big Ten territory and in ACC territory. Two things I didn't hear in any of those territories is, we're the best conference. We deserve to have 5 teams in the conference. And the SEC is the best conference. They deserve to have 5 teams in the conference. Nobody else talks like that, just the SEC. That being said, Alabama doesn't deserve to be in the college football playoff. They have 3 losses. 2 of them are to unranked teams. Ole Miss, same thing. 2 losses to unranked teams. And the last week, the 2 teams that beat those 2 teams, those wins made them bowl eligible. You lost to a team that came bowl eligible in week 12. the second to last game of the season, that means you're having a terrible season. That means you have a 500 record. Like, that's bad. And but they're SEC teams. And Big Ten, too. I'm a Big Ten guy, but it's hilarious that we say SEC and the Big Ten are the two best leagues. The two teams that are leading those respective conferences, it's their first year with the conference. The Big Ten is being led by a Pac-12 team, and the SEC is being led by a Big 12 team. So, I mean, that doesn't really support the argument. They're the best conferences. At least they're blue blood teams.
Hey, Grant, let me ask you, where did Oregon's coach come from? That's right, the SEC. He came from the SEC. Where did Sarkisian come from? The SEC.
No. You're talking about the Saban farm of coaches. All right. That's all over the place. My Iowa Hawkeyes. Guess where Kirk Ferentz, who Kirk Ferentz coached with at one point? Nick Saban.
Oh yeah. See, we're just helping Bama and LSU. Nick Saban.
No. You're helping Saban's legacy, not the SEC.
Saban is the SEC. He wears around.
I mean, he was for like a decade. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, I think you got 3 losses. And Indiana, they might not be like as tested as other teams, and I'm not an Indiana fan. But they've only have 1 loss, albeit it was a rough one, to the number 2 team in the country. They don't have a great record of victories, but they're 11-1 in a Power 5 conference. I think 10 is probably as high as they get. They lose another game, they are absolutely out. But you look at Alabama, A&M, and Ole Miss. I don't know exactly who Ames lost to. I know they lost to South Carolina. South Carolina, in my opinion, has way overperformed this year. I thought they were going to go 4-8. Way overperformed. But the amount of SEC bias on this radio station throughout the day, not just you guys, it's like listening to Fox News talk about Trump or CNN talk about Harris. And it's nuts.
Well, I'll let you go. But Eric,
being an outside guy.
Happy Thanksgiving. I do have one question for you. You said you were in ACC.
It just means more.
Yeah, I will ask you. You said you were in ACC country. How was California this week?
I was in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. I thought well-known ACC school, Stanford in California.
Appreciate your call.
Thank you for the phone call. Thank you for the phone call, Grant. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving with the family. Let's stay on the phone lines. Ronnie wants to weigh in on the college football playoff. Ronnie, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Doing great.
Good. Just to weigh in on the playoffs, my thoughts are anyone that makes it can win it, but it might turn into like an NCAA basketball style where I think the best player might take it, right? I mean, I agree Miami has a bad defense, but you give the ball to Cam Ward in the fourth quarter, he's going to score. So it might come down to like that best player kind of atmosphere versus the better team, if you will.
No, I'm with you, and that goes back to what I think we have is the parity. And a lot of people weighed in on what I asked about would you take Oregon, the only undefeated team in the country, or the field, and basically everybody said about the field, and I'm with you. You give Cam Ward a chance. He can certainly get it done. Look, Penn State does have good players. Tennessee has a pretty good defense. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that I can look 1 through 12 when we get to it. I don't think Boise State and Indiana can, but I'll be interested to see. Look, I like Kirk Cignetti there at Indiana and think he can coach up a game plan. I just don't know if he has the horses to do it. But I agree with you. I think you could see it develop a little bit more into an NCAA basketball tournament style with a few upsets.
Yeah, and then weighing in on this weekend, give me your score.
Hadn't decided. I think South Carolina wins. I really do think that Gamecock Larry's kind of onto something there with 37-24. I think Clemson's going to hit a few home runs on South Carolina's defense early. I don't know, though, if the run game for Clemson, you go back and look at what was happening against Pittsburgh until the late Cade Klubnik run there to give them the lead. I think that's the big part. Can Clemson run the ball effectively? Can they find and do what Missouri was able to do against that? I think that's a big thing of this actual game.
Yeah, well, hopefully the Tigers come on top, and it's 8 week, but I miss you and love you, and hope to see you after a Clemson win next week.
Definitely. We'll get together, but good to hear from you, Ronnie. Ronnie Alexander there. Make sure you go out Boho Pizza out there in Lexington. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on this. Actually, we're going to just come back in for 4 minutes, chant SEC.
Just means more.
Yes, we are the official show. Don't worry about ears, Feinbaum. We are the official show of the SEC here. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And it's that history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. And they'll do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. So whether it's a high-rise or a hospital, manufacturing to industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that'll keep your operation dry and running long into the future. Most importantly, they do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's right. You can give them a phone call at any point during the day, and you will speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. So make that phone call, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. It doesn't matter if you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Aiken, Augusta. Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. Give them a phone call today, 803-356-1919. 8:49 here as we wrap things up. I like this idea. Texter weighs in. New segment. Playoff teams as Thanksgiving guests, Preston Thorne. He says Indiana is the person who brings nothing to Thanksgiving, eats the most, contributed nothing, and reaps the most benefit.
Fair.
And several of y'all taking offense to Grant. Grant, we did appreciate the phone call. But Grant weighing in on SEC bias. Allen says Big Ten is made up of bottom feeders. J-Bo weighs in. Go look at the committee by numerous representatives from Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, and West Coast. The only two any Southeastern ties are the guy from Arkansas and Gary Pinkel. Then another guy takes a cheap shot at Grant, but then says he's an Iowa fan.
Intriguing. I've wanted, Grant, I hope you continue to listen and hang with us, because I'm always intrigued by Iowa fans, because that is a brand of football I appreciate, but I'm not sure it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, and again, I just point out again, Steve Sarkisian of Texas, Dan Lanning of Oregon, SEC guys. We'll claim Sarkisian. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in if you want to do that this morning. Wrapping up our conversation. Again, reminder tonight, South Carolina basketball, 5:30 pregame right here at 107.5 The Game. 6 o'clock tip time, take on Virginia Tech. Gamecocks, at least when we started the show, and I highly doubt it's moved, but the line was 4.5 to 5 in that area. So we'll have that for you, 5:30 tonight, 6 o'clock tip time. It is a big one, in all seriousness for a second. It is a big one for Lamont Paris's team, I think, for this year. 3-3. I understand the losses to Indiana and to Xavier. I got it. Doesn't mean they're acceptable. I just got it. The North Florida loss still looks bad, but you've got to win. I think you've got to win this one tonight. You can't go below 500 to 3-4 with 3 of the next 4 games. Boston College is not particularly good at basketball, but you have to go up there. East Carolina, again, not particularly good, but you got to be careful with them. And then Clemson, who is off to a pretty good start so far this year as well. So that's 3 of the next 4. South Carolina State sandwiched in there with those.
As I stated earlier, I'm looking to see the rebounds, man. According to Lamont, they got punked several times, and I want to see that aggression and them play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulders as far as this game is concerned.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. They've got to come out and play a little bit better. Because I never want to accuse a team of not playing with energy and not caring, and I don't mean to do it, but it does look like they don't play with energy.
Well, yeah, those are two separate things. Maybe they're not necessarily aware of the energy that's needed to get the thing done. Maybe there's a sense of urgency that might be lacking, but also just straight up toughness. Like, are you just going to be willing to go get the 50-50 balls or the balls that you think you should have in the air?
803-404-6100. We'll talk about that on Friday. So, what are you most looking forward to tomorrow, Preston Thorne? We have covered the meats. We've covered the sides. We've covered the desserts. Where are you? Do this real quick. Bench, cut, start. Meats, sides, desserts.
Start, sides. Bench, meats, cut, desserts.
I think this is one of the times where desserts are kind of on the background. I feel like the desserts are more of a Christmassy thing. And
listen, I'm all good with desserts, but I feel like if there's space, then it's going to be occupied by more of something. not a little. I don't need a little. There'll be enough carbs to finish me off. I don't need a sweet treat at the end.
So, what are you most? Is there a side? Or are y'all doing something special with the ham or the turkey?
Yeah, there's probably somebody's made it stated like a sweet potato casserole. I think that's what I'm going, and that'll fill my sweet need. But that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
It's I gotta admit, it's not that I don't like turkey or anything else or any kind of casseroles any other time of the year, but it seems like this is casserole season. A good broccoli casserole tomorrow, a good green bean casserole, and I agreed with somebody who I think it was green bean casserole with the little onion straws on the top.
It can go.
Always delicious. What did we learn about our rolls, our biscuits, and our cornbread today?
Well, we learned that biscuits going to have to take a step back.
It's not biscuit season.
You are one of our. If we talk about SEC bias, we know this area of the country has biscuit bias. We love biscuits. But what we've learned from everybody is that maybe on Thanksgiving biscuits, you're going to have to let some other people get a chance to play. Let some other folks shine on this one.
Texter weighs in. Start the meat, bench the sides, cut the desserts. Another texter weighs in. Most thing that they are looking forward to the most more, the nap.
That happens.
The nap.
And 4:30, the Giants play the Cowboys, that might be a great opportunity to take a nap.
If you can't nap during that game, you're just not good at napping.
Might be your perfect spot.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, NFL.
Chicago, Detroit tomorrow, 12:30 on CBS. Jens Bears head over to Ford Field, New York, and Dallas. And then, if you heard, I think one of the little CBS minutes or whatever here, tomorrow night, Miami and Green Bay, NBC. That could be kind of entertaining. Good way to wrap up the day.
Yes, sir.
We'll have you on Friday. We'll be on the phone, but we'll have you here. I'll be rolling along. We hope to talk to you Friday morning, 6 a.m. bright and early. Happy Thanksgiving, all.
All right, Rex, this morning, Clemson Road at I-20. Also, I-20 eastbound at I-26. 20 westbound just after exit 80. Not going to say the name of that road. I-20 westbound just after Monticello Road. 26 westbound just after Harbison. Platte Springs near MacArthur. And 321 near North Main. And 378 near I-77. Your weather outlook for today, mostly cloudy, 67 for high. Rain and thunderstorms for your Thanksgiving, 73 for your high on Thursday. Clearing skies but colder Friday, 57 only for a high. And Saturday, 53 for a high. So back in the 50s for all weekend.
9 o'clock on your Wednesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you. Jack Veltri should be along with me here in a couple minutes. Thanksgiving Eve. So not our last show of the week. We'll obviously be off tomorrow for Thanksgiving, and we'll all be back in here on Friday morning and getting you set for South Carolina and Clemson coming up on Saturday. The Palmetto Bowl, which is featuring now 2 top 15 teams with playoff aspirations for both of them heading into the weekend. We'll dive into a lot of the playoff top 25 and what happened last night from the latest committee rankings coming up in just a moment. But as always, we have to start things off with our 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up.
To get hyped, here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm. Sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It's time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. Once again, last night, we got the playoff committee's top 25 rankings heading into the final weekend of the regular season, setting the table for conference championship games a week and a half from now, and then ultimately Selection Sunday the day after that. And Carolina does come in at number 15 in the latest rankings, moving up 3 spots from 18 last week. Essentially, South Carolina moved up, taking the place of where BYU, Texas A&M, and I guess Colorado, all in front of them, ended up falling after their respective losses this weekend. And that's something that we kind of expected, that Carolina was going to be able to jump over those teams because of their losses. Were they going to be able to jump ahead of anybody else was, I think, the biggest question, particularly teams in the SEC that lost games this past weekend as well, namely Alabama and Ole Miss. Those 2 teams actually end up right in front of South Carolina, Alabama at number 13, dropping from number 7, and then Ole Miss at 14, dropping from number 9. Again, both of those teams going into this past weekend were in prime spots to be able to win out and make the college football playoff. Alabama was in line to go to the SEC championship game as long as they beat Oklahoma and Auburn. Obviously lost to Oklahoma, and that puts Georgia in the SEC championship game. But Ole Miss perhaps had the easiest path of anybody, because all they had to do was beat Florida and a hapless Mississippi State team, and they would have definitely been in with one of the at-large spots in the college football playoff, maybe going on the road in round number 1, but still being in the playoff nonetheless. So those 2 teams obviously ended up losing, and the question for me going into last night was, would the committee be willing to rank South Carolina above them? Now, obviously, you clearly say, okay, well, both those teams obviously beat South Carolina. However, the playoff committee this year already has shown the ability to rank teams above teams that beat them. In the case of Alabama and Tennessee last week, quite a bit. Alabama was 7, Tennessee was 11, despite the fact they had the same record, and Tennessee won the head-to-head a couple weeks ago. So it wasn't a foreign concept to think that that South Carolina could have potentially slid ahead of one of these 2 teams. The fact that they did not, the fact that they are still behind Alabama and Ole Miss, does concern me for just how high they can go exactly. Now, what benefits South Carolina is the fact that Clemson is number 12. Clemson does not probably deserve to be number 12. They're a 9-2 team. So they have a better record than Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. However, they don't have any credible wins on the resume. They have one win against a team that has reached bowl eligibility so far this year. That being Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, a team that had just recently fallen out of the top 25. That's it. They have not beaten another team this year that has already achieved 6 wins. So essentially everybody else they've faced is below 500 going into the last week of the regular season. Of course, they played Georgia, got beat by 30 points. They played Louisville a couple weeks ago. The final score is not indicative of just how lopsided that game was in Louisville's favor. So the 2 best teams they've played have beat them pretty handily. And again, they don't have any quality wins to fall back on. Certainly nobody that's in the top 25. While they don't deserve to be at number 12, in my opinion, that helps South Carolina out a lot. Because if Carolina wants to jump their way in, beating a Clemson team that is ranked 3 spots ahead of them, gives them a case to maybe jump over Alabama and Ole Miss if they win this weekend. And, let's just say Alabama wins the Iron Bowl and Ole Miss wins the Egg Bowl. That's your best opportunity. Again, I don't know if the committee would be willing to do it, but in my opinion, it'd be hard-pressed to see a Carolina team beat a higher-ranked opponent and not move at all, assuming that everything else ahead of them is chalk this weekend and everybody else from 1 all the way down to 14 wins. To not move them at all, beating a team that's 3 spots ahead of them, I find that hard to believe. Now, that being said, I don't know if they can jump both of them. And it's interesting to me because Ole Miss clearly had the more dominant win against South Carolina, right? They came in here, won by 24 points, and manhandled South Carolina basically for 4 quarters of that game. Alabama, it was a closer game. 2 points and a couple of things bounced a different way for Carolina at the end, and they end up winning that game. Alabama also has, I think, a much worse loss this past weekend to a 500 Oklahoma team by 21 points compared to Ole Miss, who lost by 7 to another about 500 Florida team. But still, the fact that Ole Miss is between South Carolina and Alabama is concerning. Because, again, they did have the more dominant win over Carolina, and I do think head-to-head has to matter at the end of the day. But, again, Clemson being ranked number 12, I do think provides a pathway, an opportunity for Carolina to make the jump, though I don't know if they will or not. The fact that you're in the conversation, the fact that you can go into this weekend with some aspirations of maybe getting your way into the playoff, like I've said before, it's a night and day difference where you were a year ago. This team going into the final week of the regular season last year, and, Beamer talked about it the other day, was 5-6, knowing that you had to beat your in-state rival just to reach a bowl game, which, low-scoring game. Carolina obviously gave up the touchdown basically on the first play of the game last year to Clemson and ended up losing, 16-7? So you getting blown out, but you lost. You fell to 5-7. You missed a bowl game. So to be here a year later, and again, I don't know how great Carolina's chances are, even with the win this weekend against Clemson. You have an opportunity, but I don't know if the committee's willing to do it. Just to be in this position of being a top 15 team in the conversation for making the expanded playoff. Again, round of applause, hats off, bravo, whatever you want to say to Beamer and company for the turnaround from one year to the next. And, man, what a high-stakes Palmetto Bowl we're going to be treated to this weekend. Both teams, again, still with playoff hopes alive.